Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. We got a rickety table here. We got 3 speakers. You know what that means? It's a Saturday speaker shootout. This is going to be a good one. Very excited to get these 3 speakers together and give them a comparison. We have, from my left to my right, your right to your left, the Elac Unify reference. We have the GoldenEar BRX, 2-way with 2 passive radiators. And then last but not least, the Buchardt S400 Mark II. Look at it. Uh-oh. This one is a 2-way, but also has a passive radiator. I'm going to go through the design, everything like that. But if you're new here, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always unsubscribe. And like this video. You can always go back and take your like away if you didn't like the video. Okay, some specs and prices, all right? So the Buchardt S400 Mark II. This is a direct-to-consumer product. Direct-to-customer, really. We're not consumers, we're customers. Direct-to-customer product comes from not in the US. So it's sold in euros, 2,000 euros. Depending upon the exchange rate is what you are going to pay in your country of origin. The BRX from GoldenEar. This is $1,600 a pair. They are sold as singles, so $800 a piece. The Elac Unify reference started off, debuted, don't get confused, debuted at $1,000. Retail price on this is now $1,200. $1,200 for the Elac, $1,600 for the GoldenEar, and $2,000 or a little bit north of $2,000 for the Buchardt S400 Mark II. Talk about some Elacs. The Elac comes in a few different colors. This has a black baffle and then I guess an oak surround. You can get a white one, and I think there's one more color you can get. Comes with one of my favorite grills. Magnetic grills, and then they pop right off. 6.5-inch aluminum woofer. There we go. Front port, front slot port, obviously. 4-inch aluminum mid-range, and then it is a 1-inch soft dome tweeter. Sensitivity on these, pretty low, 85 dB sensitive. Frequency response, 41 up to 35,000 hertz. Nominal impedance, 6 ohms. Not a super easy speaker to drive. On the back, there's some very nice binding posts that have jumpers. So if you think the jumpers impact the sound, you can always just go get a really thick piece of yummy wire and then do a wire between them. Not too bad. Anyway, that very good looking speaker, and definitely the heaviest speaker out of the bunch. How heavy is it? It's pretty heavy. The GoldenEar, all right? BRX bookshelf speaker. And get a good look at it there. This has a folded ribbon tweeter. I love the way it's a HVFR tweeter. It's trademarked, okay? Ribbon tweeter, 6-inch woofer. It just says reference mid-bass woofer, but it feels like paper to me. Or maybe some type of, it feels papery to me. Both sides, there are passive radiators on this. On the back, this one probably gets my least favorite binding post award out of all of them. Some bumpers on the bottom. Now, the grill on this one, if I like the Unify, I loved this one because the grill is just wonderful. Sits on a little lip on the bottom and then magnetizes in there, and it is metal. Very nice metal, grady. Has a little lip on the top and the bottom. Bottom has some softies, so you don't scratch up your speaker. Very nice. Gloss. Good looking speaker. This is also thicker at the back than it is at the front. Weight, how heavy is it? Not as heavy as the Elac. The Buchardt. All right, Buchardt. 2-way design with the passive radiator. Let's show you the passive radiator on the back. There's the passive radiator on the back. Nice and big. Very nice binding post there at the bottom. You cannot buy amp or buy wire this one. You can't buy amp or buy wire the GoldenEar either. Grills. Without a doubt, least favorite grills. I don't like the grills. I wish it was one solid piece. That's purely subjective though. So on my part, as well as looks purely subjective, as well as sound signature, purely subjective. Okay? I don't like the grills. That's fine. I don't think people care. Specifications on this one. 4 ohm nominal impedance, 88 dB sensitive. Little bit more sensitive than the Elac Unifier reference, but same nominal impedance, 4 ohms. Rated down to 33 hertz up to 1,000 hertz. How much do these weigh? A little bit more than the BRXs. From a looky standpoint, they all are beautiful in their own way. I think the Elac's probably the most traditionally looking speaker, but it has some nice lines. It's a little curved on the front baffle and some nice highlights, like chromy highlights. The BRX is very dignified with its gloss black. It also has nice curves. Buchardt, out of these three, is probably the most boring looking, but it does have a very classic look. The finish is excellent, and I don't think any of these speakers feel like they are underbuilt for their price. I think they're all just fine. Which one you like is really dependent upon your opinion. Subjectively, what you like better with the way it looks. Okay. I haven't even put this in the cup yet. Uh-oh. Let's talk about Soundstage and Imaging. Okay, Soundstage and Imaging. Pretty easy. Number one is the Elac Unifier reference. I think it has everything to do with the concentric driver with the mid-range and the tweeter up here. Number two goes to the Buchardt. Number three, the GoldenEar BRX. I think anybody that's reasonable would look at the construction or the design of these speakers and come to probably a similar conclusion as I did from a practical standpoint. Movies, excellent on all of these, but the Elac and the Buchardt really had me throwing my head as to see, hey, is there someone coming from the side of me that's going to kill me while I was watching a movie? Generally, that's not a problem we have in the house with intruders and things like that. But I was watching Aliens. James Cameron. One of the best sequels ever made, Aliens. With the Bucharts and with the Elacs, it really was an immersive experience. And that's the thing about these two speakers, is I think they soundstage and image well enough that if you were using these for movie duty, as well as just for music, I don't really know how much of a huge step up it's going to be to go with the full-on surround sound system. And I know people will probably think I'm crazy for that, but outside of needing a center channel for some dialogue clarity or dialogue level control, the Elac and the Buchardt do a great job of dispersion of the sound. Not only horizontally, but also vertically. Am I pitting out? A little bit. BRX does a good job, but I think the tweeter design is just limited. Vertical off-axis performance of the BRX is not nearly as good as the Buchardt and the Elac. Let's talk about bass. On paper, the Bucharts have the lowest spec frequency, so 33, 40, 41. In practice, they all had a very impressive bass presence. None of them felt lean. They all felt impactful oomph. Where things started spreading out, though, was when we start getting into really bass, tone, texture, clarity, things like that. And I think for me, if you get the placement right, get them out from the wall, because both the BRX and the Bucharts can have a tendency to become a bit much in smaller rooms. If you get boundary reinforcement away from them, and that just means the walls. So get the walls a little bit further away from these two. Bass clarity, pretty impressive. The only other speaker that I've heard that has done as good of a job or better job than the Buchardt S400 Mark II is a kit, and that's the CSS Crichton 1TD or 1TDX, but with the upgraded crossover. We can talk about crossover components and all that good stuff. The Buchardt S400 already comes with a lot of those high-end boutique type of crossover parts. Does that have anything to do with the bass clarity? I don't know. What I do know is that I heard more detail and even space in the bass, which I usually don't hear with the Buchardt S400s. Kind of a tie between the Elac and the BRX. Different design. We have a ported design versus a passive radiator design. In a small room, I had the most trouble with the BRXs as far as being a bit boomy. In a larger room, the bass is quite good. Not quite as good as the Buchardt. It depends on what style you like, because bass tone is subjective, just like everything else. A lot of people love paper cone woofers. A lot of people love metal cone drivers, like the aluminum here. I didn't feel like there was a big enough difference to say one was better than the other. The Buchardt S400 Mark II is better than the other two when it comes to bass clarity. Bass presence, they all extend well. They all gave me an impression of Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. They're all very, very impressive. And you're not really missing much, but if there's a winner for bass, it's the Buchardt S400 Mark II. Let's talk about mid-range. A mid-range. I don't know if I'm going to be in focus with the speaker. Here, I'll come right in here. See if we're all in focus, because people get real upset if the camera goes out of focus. Two tracks that I use. Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC. Tells me a lot about a speaker with the mid-range, crossover points, things like that. And then Got Me Wrong by Alice in Chains off the MTV Unplugged album. Great record. Both great records. Back to Black, come on, everybody likes Back to Black. So Shoot to Thrill. As far as crunchy clarity in the mid-range, Elac Unify reference. It was more gravelly on the Elac Unify reference. Then it was kind of a tie. If we are judging a speaker off of that crunch, the electric guitar growl and clarity, if you get these out from the wall far enough, then it'll be the BRX. Otherwise, it's kind of a tie between the BRX and the Buchardts. Acoustic guitars on Got Me Wrong. To my ear, they were more, probably the most pleasing. GoldenEar, BRX. There's some richness, but also with the folded ribbon tweeter, a little more clarity than I was getting from either the Elac or the Buchardt. Buchardt's still really good, really great, but when you have three great speakers on the table, it's very difficult. And some just do a bit better job, in my opinion, of course, subjectively, than the other ones. Cleanliness, clarity, and tone, Elac Unify reference. Even though I think there's more detail in the BRX, the GoldenEar BRX, I think the way the frequency response is going on, I hear more of it in the Elac Unify. It's there, the detail's there, but you really have to lean into it. The Buchardt is more lush, romantic, not as detail-oriented. These all have somewhat of a similar sound signature, but if there's two on the table that sounded very similar, it would be the Buchardt and the GoldenEar. Female vocals sounded great. I think they sounded the most natural on the Elac Unify reference. I think they sounded warm and detailed at the same time on the GoldenEar, which is kind of a paradox. I think they seemed a little bit more romantic on the Buchardt. So probably most realistic, romantic but yet detailed, and then just romantic, not as much detail. Mid-range winner, if I had to give a mid-range winner, it's going to be the Elac Unify reference. Let's talk about treble. Treble. Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica. There's a whole bunch of cool cymbal crashes in there. Offbeat cymbal crashes. Lars going to town, going to bananas on the drum kit. Off the And Justice for All record. Is that up there? Yeah, you can see it. Boop! Off of that record. Probably not a huge surprise here. With top end clarity, detail resolution, it's going to be the GoldenEar BRX. Followed by the Elac Unify reference. Up the back, coming in third place is going to be the Buchardt S400 Mark II. As far as detail, clarity, yeah, that's what we're going with. Nina Simone, Centerman, 16th notes. Again, most accurate would be the Elac Unify reference, but the most detailed would be GoldenEar BRX. But it doesn't seem quite as natural because there's a little bit of warmth there. Treble on the Buchardt S400 Mark II, not as clearly defined. Not saying it's bad. Not saying it's not pleasing or not enjoyable to listen to. There's just not as much clarity and detail retrieval as the Elac Unify Reference or the GoldenEar BRX. At louder volumes, the Buchardt comes into line a little bit better. Lower volume, really the Elac has treble presence, treble clarity there throughout. The GoldenEar also has the clarity, and off the table has the most clarity because of the ribbon tweeter. But the way that they have it designed with the frequency responses, it's not always in your face. Like an Emotiva speaker is way more in your face with the clarity than the GoldenEar BRX. This is a tough one. I wish I could combine some of these speakers to make the perfect speaker on the table. Treble Clarity Award would go to the BRX. Overall treble believability, accuracy, probably Elac Unify. And then number 3 would be the Buchardt S400 Mark II. Not saying the treble's bad, just saying it's a bit better on these other speakers. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts. I think they're all excellent speakers. And I think they're all a little bit different. Like I said before, I think the BRX and the Buchardt sound the most similar. A little bit more romanticized, caramelly. I wouldn't call them rolled off at all because there's still a lot of treble presence there, but they have that warmer vibe. The Elac Unify Reference, oddly enough, also has a warmer tone to it in comparison to the Unify 2.0. Unify 2.0, I think, is neutral, neutral, neutral. The Unify Reference, I think, is slightly south of neutral with a bit of a warm influence. I think the GoldenEar BRX and the Buchardt S400 Mark II could be considered a warm-ish speaker. Elac's not quite as warm as these two. What you want is depending upon what your taste in music is. I would have no problem listening to any of these 3 speakers for the rest of my life. I would be completely thrilled to do so. But if we're talking about value, without a doubt, it goes to the Unify Reference. Without a doubt, at $1,200, I think one is getting a neutral-ish speaker with goodles and boodles. Truly remarkable soundstage and imaging to the point where I don't know if you need a surround sound if you don't want to have a surround sound. You're still going to get that immersive experience with movies. Probably going to need some type of center channel so you can at least control the amount of the dialogue. But you can still get away with not running a center channel. Just some movies just may be a little bit harder to understand as far as the dialogue. Okay. The BRX, GoldenEar BRX, excellent speaker. Placement is a little bit more important and room size is a little bit more important with the GoldenEar BRX and to a lesser extent the Buchardt S400. I had the S400s here in my office and I never noticed the bass being too much. Whereas the BRXs, the GoldenEar BRXs, I felt like I really had to be cognizant of where I had these placed in the room. Too close to a wall and it was just too much. And when there was too much bass, it completely wrecked the mid-range clarity and even the top-end clarity. With the right placement though, I think the GoldenEar BRX is a brilliant speaker. And since it's coming in at $400 less or even $500 less, depending upon the exchange rate, I think the runner-up value winner would be the GoldenEar BRX. S400 Mark II from Buchardt, I think is a brilliant speaker. Fantastic speaker. Wonderful speaker. I just don't think it's as big of a value as the other two. Especially the Elac. I mean, we're talking $900 difference between the Buchardt and the Elac. You sacrifice some bass detail with the Elac, but outside of that, I think the Elac's actually a better speaker than the Buchardt, with the exception of the bass clarity. So they all do something special. They all have their pros and their cons. Out of everybody, though, the one that is the most consistent performer across soundstage, mid-range, bass, treble, all that value is going to be the Elac Unify Reference, which is exciting because that means for $1,200 you can get a speaker that is doing things better than speakers that are higher priced. If you want extreme clarity on the bass, you want space in the bass, probably get the Buchardt's S400 Mark II. If you want the most clarity on the top end, and you're okay to sacrifice a little bit of Soundstage and Imaging, then you're going to want to look at the BRX GoldenEar BRX. If it was me and it was my money, I would be getting the Elac Unify reference, which is good because this speaker has been out for a while. It rarely, I don't think I've ever seen it go on sale. When it first came out, it was $1,000. $1,200 now is the new retail. You can go to Crutchfield and get them open box and things like that. Fun video today, tough video because these are all very good speakers and they all perform very well. I don't think anybody would really, no one can really go wrong going with any of these speakers. Which one you get though depends 100% on what you prioritize because all of these speakers do something a little bit special. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. For some reason, I love drinking soda out of coffee mugs. It just seems like it keeps it colder. Anyway, if you're new here, consider subscribing. Turn on the bell notification, the whistle notifications, all the notifications so that you know when all my new videos go up. You can also sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We have a Patreon-only Discord group, a Patreon-only Facebook group. Certain tiers of patrons get free gear. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal Music. Links in the description. Click on the links. Sign up. If you do, I get a couple of bucks, even if you cancel. You can also use the links in the description if you want to buy any of these. The S400 Mark II from Buchardt, I do not have an affiliate relationship with them, so I won't get anything if you buy them. But please buy them because they're a great speaker. I will link both of these to Crutchfield, the Elac, and the GoldenEar. If you do click on those links and buy, then I will get a commission. Doesn't cost you any more though. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Let's just through one of these speakers or something. Binge listen through your Buchardt S400 Mark II, the Elac Unify reference, or the GoldenEar BRX. And fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.